Coaching Club TV, and for this month's Coach to Coach, we're filming on behalf of the Association for Coaching. I'm Tremaine Dupreez, and I am delighted to welcome Aboodi Shabi to be with us here today. For those who don't know Aboodi, he was the founding co-president of the ICF here in the UK, and he's a man with a finger on the future of executive coaching, as today we discuss the world beyond coaching and the journey to coaching mastery. Given the uncertainty that we're all working in globally, is it business as usual for the executive coach, or do some things have to change in how we approach our work?
One of the things I've been trying to address, because one of the things that I do is I speak inside the coaching profession at different contexts, is to ask this question of whether coaching is really about supporting more of the same or challenging the status quo. And I don't think inequality, for instance, is one of the current concerns that's being brought out by, for instance, the Brexit vote or the rise of Donald Trump, is a particularly new issue. I think these things have been around for a while. So in that context, the coaching profession still has to ask itself the same questions. And on a more provocative day, I might say, of the coaching profession, are we part of the problem or part of the solution? And I don't think the answer is clear-cut, and I don't think it ever has been clear-cut, but what we're seeing now is, if you like this word that I don't particularly like, but VUCA, coming to the fore. And I think that the coaching profession has something to contribute when more people feel more uncertain and there's more complexity that doesn't just require simple answers. At the same time, I think part of the challenge of our age is that we live in a time when people really want simple, quick answers. And again, just to go back to Brexit for a moment, that was a quick answer. We're unhappy, let's vote Brexit. But in the coaching work that I do and in the world in which we live, people are looking for quick solutions. They want top 10 tips to being a great leader, top 10 tips to whatever. And that's insufficient. Some of the questions that we are facing require more than just a binary response, more than just a quick response. And that is part of the systemic breakdown that I think we're in, is how do we go beyond just having simple answers?
Is it then incumbent on the coach to actually dig deeper?
I think so. I think part of it is, this is one of the things that I think is challenging for the coaching profession, is to distinguish between pleasing the client, who comes along and she says, I want quick answers. I'm leading a complex organization, I need quick answers. That's pleasing the client, is to try and give them quick answers, and serving the client, which is to go deeper. I think part of mastery in coaching is building the capacity to sit with a client in an uncomfortable space where there's pressure from the client for quick answers. The coach has her or his own pressures to come up with quick answers and help quickly, and sometimes we only have 6 or 10 sessions with a client, to sit with all that discomfort and still hold to go somewhere deeper. And I think that is part of what the coach's journey of learning is, to work on her or his own being, to be able to hold with authority that capacity to go deeper, even in the face of this trend to go for quick answers.
You talk a lot about the art of coaching. Yeah. How does that sit in the coach's journey to master that art?
Well, it's a lifelong learning. Mastering anything is not a quick process, and a distinction that I often work with when I train coaches or when I work with leaders is that the difference between an expert and a leader, and a master, is that an expert wants to get to the answer as quickly as possible, and a master is comfortable sitting in not knowing as long as possible. And probably my favorite quote is the quote from Jung, and he says, learn your theories and techniques as well as you can, and then be prepared to set them aside when you meet the miracle of the living soul in front of you. And if I think about that for a coach, absolutely we have to study the science of coaching, the techniques of coaching, the latest theories about coaching. And at the same time, the mastery bit is the capacity to leave all that behind, so that I'm not coaching from a technique or from a kind of quick tip solution approach, but I'm really getting present to the human being and the concerns that the human being that I'm working with has.
You wrote a great article which you entitled The Enemies of Coaching, and for any coach, certainly a new coach or a seasoned coach, these are very valuable reminders of who we are and what we do and what can get in the way of that. Can you expand on a couple of those?
You know, one of the big enemies of coaching is not paying enough attention to the connection. You know, and given that most people, when they report into their managers or they speak with their partners, are often caught in transactional conversations for an outcome, what they're really missing is a conversation that has connection at its heart. And when I work with coachees, what I noticed in many of them is not that they're looking for solutions. Even if they start by saying they're looking for solutions to their dilemmas, what they're actually looking for is an experience of being heard. You know, and I think this is a real challenge of our age. People are not heard very often. What they're seen is they're almost kind of part of a system of output. You know, what's your performance like this week, this year? How are you meeting your goals? Not that those things are illegitimate, but there's also the human being there. You know, you might not be meeting your goals because the organization isn't supporting you, or because there are aspects of your being that need to develop, but I can't do that if I'm just focusing on how you're going to get from A to B faster. So I think that's a part of it. We also live in an economic system that's really all about measurement and results. So it doesn't pay attention to, if you like, the non-rational parts of being human or the non-rational parts of performance. You know, we discount moods and emotions, for instance, and yet, you know, how I show up at work, my mood at work impacts my capacity to do my work. If I'm in a mood of resentment because I don't feel like the organization listens to me, that's going to affect my performance. So it's not just a fluffy, you know, a new agey thing of having people be in touch with their feelings. It's much more about, if I understand a coachee's resentment and help him or her to work with that, they might actually perform better. And, you know, clients or employees who are in a mood of enthusiasm are much more likely to innovate. They're much less likely to clock watch or just work by the book. So all of those things are to do with more than just the transactional, binary, you know, measurable performance aspect, which is what we tend to focus on so often. I think the other thing that plays into that, which is kind of an enemy of coaching or a shadow of the coaching profession, is this almost, Barbara Ehrenreich called it, the cult of mandatory optimism. So that part of what I think coaching has got caught in is this thing of positive thinking is the answer to everything. And if only you thought positively, then you would find a way through it, you know. And the manager, or sometimes unfortunately it happens in personal relationships as well, the husband or wife who says, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. You know, what's great about that? How could you make this positive? What that does for me is it discounts the reality that a coachee comes with. So if I have a coachee who's struggling with some aspect of her or his professional or personal life, it's disrespectful to me to go, oh, well, how could you make that positive? Rather than actually listening to their report of their experience and then helping them to find new ways of being with that. And sometimes they might have a very strong negative emotion that actually means that something needs attention. So this quick leap to being positive about everything, which discounts the client's experience in a world where they're not often listened to anyway, is part of, I think, this art of coaching. It's as I said, it's a big shadow of the coaching profession, I think, this kind of almost cult of positivity. Again, there's nothing wrong with positive thinking, it has its place, but we tend to think of it as a panacea. That, I'll end on this, but because I think it's a nice way to end. When Steve Jobs did his Stanford University speech, which I think is a lovely speech, he ended it by quoting from the Whole Earth Catalogue, which says, stay hungry, stay foolish. And I think, you know, if I think about what is the future of coaching, it's something about staying hungry and staying foolish. In other words, not assuming that we know stuff. Even if I've met the same client for the 6 times, the 7th time they might be different. So that thing of being curious and open with the foolishness and hunger of a beginner is, I think, really important for the future of this profession.
Aboodi, thank you for your insights, for your time. This has been Coach to Coach by the Coaching Club. I'm Tremaine Dupreez, and for more interviews like this with industry leaders, remember to subscribe just below.